Hey, this is Tom from MVP Chess. Welcome back to my series on Bobby Fischer's seminal work, My 60 Memorable Games. In this video, we'll be analyzing game number 51 that Fischer played versus Vasily Smyslov in Havana, 1965. Before we jump in, though, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and join Team MVP. Thank you so much for your support. So, Vasily Smyslov, the former world champion, needs no introduction. Way back in game number 15, we analyzed a game between these two world champions. It's 1965. Smyslov is past his prime, but still a formidable weapon. Now, interesting thing about this game was that since it was played in Havana, Fischer was forbidden from traveling to this tournament. So he actually played via telephone. The moves were sent electronically. And this is the board that he played on. It's in the Marshall Chess Club in New York City, and yours truly actually played on this very board. They used to, I don't think they do it anymore, they used to let the board one of a tournament play on the Fischer board. I think it's kind of roped off now, just to protect it. Probably a good idea. But this made this game really special for me, having played on the exact board where this game took place. Pretty cool. All right, I digress. Fischer with the white pieces, Smyslov playing black. Of course, Bobby plays e4, best by test. We have e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Spanish on the board. We're going against the big guns here, so no more Italian, no more Evans Gambit. Fischer going to his tried and true Ruy Lopez. After a6, bishop a4, knight f6. Fischer plays d3. Okay, so Fischer says in the book that this is his first time that he played this variation in a proper tournament game. This move was championed way back by Wilhelm Steinitz, and it's definitely a solid way to play with white. There's much less theory, and it immediately introduces a threat in the position. Now that this e4 pawn is solidly defended, white is threatening here to play bishop takes c6, followed by knight takes e5. Okay, a move that's not possible in the main line, but here it is. So sometimes if you get opponents that are just playing on autopilot, you can catch them out and win a clean central pawn out of the opening. So, of course, Smyslov isn't falling for that. He plays pawn to d6, reinforcing the pawn. Now black has introduced a threat in the position, and that is to play b5 and knight a5 and chase down this Spanish bishop, the Bambino. Of course, Fischer plays c3, giving it a bolt hole to escape. We have bishop e7, knight bd2. Now, watch it, Fischer's interesting maneuver, and this is really common in this d3 line, and it's a maneuver Steinitz made a lot. You might be familiar with this in the Spanish, but since d3 was on the board, white has this extra option of playing knight f1. Okay, he's saving a tempo by not having to play rook e1. So this allows the knight to make the classic Spanish or Italian maneuver a little faster. So we have b5. Of course, Fischer retreats the bishop. d5, striking in the center. And Fischer, of course, doesn't want the queens to be exchanged. He plays queen e2. D takes, and here Smyslov makes a really interesting decision. He plays bishop e6, challenging Fischer's Spanish bishop. Now, Fischer here trades one advantage for another. Okay, this Spanish bishop is typically the best minor piece in the Ruy Lopez. He trades this advantage for a different one. He has now inflicted double pawns in Smyslov's position. So Fischer now has clear targets to attack in the middle game, and he's going to hope to win one of these pawns outright and win the endgame. So the battle lines have been drawn here. We have knight g3, queen d7, castles, rook a d8. Fischer needs to get this rook into the game. This bishop is doing a fine job where it is. There's no rush to develop that. That's why a4 is such a common move in these structures, okay? Striking at the b pawn, using it as a hook to open the a file. Smyslov decides to play queen d3, chop off some wood. Fischer exchanges, captures on b5, and here we go. His rook is now active on the a file. So very instructive play, something that all Italian and Spanish players should know. Now we have rook d6. Smyslov defends the knight, which was under attack, and introduces a little positional threat. Okay, his threat is if Fischer continues normally with development, let's say bishop e3. Okay, this was not the game continuation, but Smyslov would have a little positional tactic here by playing knight d4. Okay, the rook's on pre, so if Fischer takes, Smyslov would have this in-between move, knight takes f3, which would mess up Fischer's kingside structure a little bit. The bishop cements itself on d6, protecting this vulnerable pawn in e5. So game would likely end in a draw. That's why after rook d6, Fischer played a very clever move, king h1. Okay, now this doesn't work because Fischer can take the rook. Knight takes f3 does not come with check in this position. Okay, so Fischer could just save the rook in this position. So Smyslov plays knight d7. Now and only now Fischer plays bishop e3, rook d8, h3, giving love for the king. And Fischer doubles on the a file. So Smyslov has claimed the d file. Fischer has claimed the a file for the rooks. We have knight b8, trying to harass this rook. Fischer brings it to a8. And we have an exchange of rooks on a1. Now, this was a really critical juncture in the game, actually. Fischer says that both players had a feeling that playing b4 was the right course of action, both for Smyslov and for Fischer. From Smyslov's perspective, playing b4 to try to rid this potentially weak pawn on b5. For Fischer, playing b4 himself to fix this pawn as a weakness. So this was really Smyslov's last chance to play b4. Instead, he played knight d7, and Fischer took the opportunity to play b4 himself. Now, he's really fixed this pawn on b5 as a weakness and is going to look to attack it and tie black down to its defense. King f7, knight f1. Okay, Fischer wants to start regrouping his pieces to start attacking all of these pawn weaknesses in black's position. Okay, the knight on g3 is just a bad piece. It really has no scope there, so Fischer looking to reroute it to greener pastures. Bishop d6, pawn to g3. Fischer stepping out of any weird knight d4 tricks that might occur with the bishop on this diagonal. Knight f6. And Fischer begins rerouting his knight. Rook a6. And this was a really instructive moment by Fischer. I love this maneuver. Rook a6 and then rook a5. Provoking c6. What piece is not happy about the move c6 is its knight. Okay, so b5 didn't turn out to be a pawn weakness that Fischer could win directly. But indirectly, it causes a lot of problems for Smyslov's position. In particular, his pieces are all bunched up. It's almost like he has a space disadvantage on the queen side. So this knight is really lacking some decent squares. Nice positional play by Fischer. King g2, knight d7. Smyslov, of course, is going to try to improve that knight. King f1. Fischer's trying to centralize his king and prepare the knight maneuver, knight e1, knight d3. We have rook c8. Okay, now that Smyslov has stepped off the d file, Fischer can actually get the knight to d3 even faster. And he does that in this manner. We have knight c7. And then Fischer plays a really nice move in this position. Pawn to c4. Boom. Great move. And once these pawns are exchanged, notice the harmony in Fischer's position now, okay? This knight rerouted itself from g3. It's now over on the queen side and is coordinating beautiful with all of Fischer's pieces to attack this weak pawn on e5. Great positional play. So the first step, way back when in the opening, Fischer was target conscious, okay, when he played bishop takes e6, inflicting these double pawns. Of course, now his strategy has come to fruition. He's maneuvered all of his pieces now in the middle game to attack this weakness. Great play. Knight b5, rook a6, king f6, and black's holding things together for now, okay? The knights are doing a great job attacking e5. The one piece in Fischer's position that's not attacking this weakness is his bishop on e3, so he plays bishop c1. Great move. Rerouting the bishop to b2 to apply more pressure to the weakened e5 pawn. Bishop b8, bishop b2. Fischer menacing f4 here, adding another attacker to e5, taking advantage of this alignment here. So we have c5, knight b6. Fischer forces the exchange of these knights. And after c4, knight c5, Smyslov has managed to defend the e5 pawn, but now we see the e6 pawn is indefensible. Fischer bringing the knight to b5. And in this position, after c3, Smyslov made this move and decided to resign. Wow. Okay, so let's see how Fischer would have converted this, at least the line that he gave. He gave bishop c1. Of course, he needs to protect the bishop. It was under attack. And after knight d4, Smyslov, of course, his only chance is to try to generate some counterplay with this passed c-pawn. Fischer would have knight d7. He could capture here, play rook b7, rook d7, and instead of worrying about this bishop on c1, he can play a really nice move here. Rook takes g7. And he's threatening just to pick off this rook on c8. Bishop takes h6 in the air. This position is over. So let's leave the final position on the board, which is pawn to c3. Great game by Fischer. Very instructive game. Okay. Being target conscious in your chess games is really important. Okay. The first step is to create those weaknesses. And then to convert them to the full point, you really need to coordinate your pieces, just like Fischer did, and attack that weak point. Really model play from Fischer. So, hope you enjoyed this game. Don't forget, smash that subscribe button. Join Team MVP. You're not going to want to miss my next installment, which is going to be game number 52. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye.